Hi everyone, this is Neel Raithatha, also known as the Wax Whisperer. Thank you for joining me in my latest video. We have here a patient who attended with bilateral blocked earwax, and I'm commencing with their left ear first, which is the worst ear out of the two. They were actually experiencing otalgia in this ear, which is the medical term given for an earache. And you will see once I remove this plug of earwax that they were suffering from superficial otitis externa. So otitis externa is an infection or inflammation of the outer ear, and this patient's outer layer of skin, the epidermis, was slightly inflamed. You'll see it's quite red and it was tender. So we've advised the patient to visit their GP, and in the meantime just use some over-the-counter acetic acid spray just to help calm their ear down. And this wax, it was quite dry, and I'm just using an ear hook at the moment to try to prise this out. It was just too dry to remove with microsuction initially anyway. I am going to install some olive oil spray in a moment just to soften this wax. When you've got really dry wax and dead skin like this and it's adhered to the canal wall, it can be very difficult to remove just by using suction. So I'm just trying to glide the hook in on the posterior canal walls, that's the back part of the ear canal, and then I'm on the anterior canal wall. Now this is the front part, and you can see that skin adhesion. The white silvery layer of skin that envelopes the wax plug, that was up until recently the layer of skin lining the ear canal, and that skin has since died and it's shedded and it's replaced by another layer of skin. And in the process of its shedding, it's just attached itself to the wax plug. Again, this is another layer of skin. You can see it's oxidized a bit, so it's a bit more yellow in appearance compared to the previous skin that you saw, which was more white and silvery. So I'm just now using the Jobson horn to glide in and above and over this wax plug. I say it's a wax plug, it's a lot of dead skin incorporated within. Now there is a big overlap between a dead skin plug and an earwax plug. That's because typically normal earwax consists of around 60% of dead skin, and the other 40% is a buildup of oily and fatty sweats and oils. So sebum, which is secreted by the sebaceous glands, it contains it's an oily lipid fatty secretion, and it contains of squalene, cholesterols. It also contains long chains of fatty acids, so saturated and unsaturated fatty acid chains. So you can see the patient's eardrum there, and just around the periphery, the ear canal slightly inflamed. It was also a bit wet. They did get some water in their ear, so the skin has become a bit macerated. So I'm just going to now peel away this dead layer of skin around the edge. And also the remaining 40% of earwax is made up of, as I just described, sebum, which contains of alcohols, squalenes, cholesterols, and long chains of saturated and unsaturated fatty acids, and also an oily sweat secreted by the ceruminous glands. So the ceruminous glands are modified sweat glands, so modified alpocrine glands, and the ceruminous glands are slightly different to the sweat glands we find on our brow. So if we sweat after a jog, for example, the sweat that we have on our forehead is more of a watery, salty sweat, whereas the sweat under our armpits is more of an oily sweat, and that we secrete the same sweat within our ears. So those ceruminous glands that are responsible for secreting this oily sweat are exclusively found in the ear canal, under our armpits, and also the inner groin region. So 40% is wet matter, 60% is dry matter. But in this patient, I would say it's probably more 70-80% dead skin, and the remaining 20-30% is more of the oily sweat and the oily fatty secretion sebum. So I'm just using the fine end here, and because they've got this superficial otitis externa, you can see the canal, it just looks angry, it's red. When you compare it to their right ear, you'll see the difference. So because their ear is tender, we're just going to be gentle. We don't want to poke too hard and make contact with the canal wall, because that will be uncomfortable for the patient. Now, they do suffer from chronic otitis externa. In the past, they've had discharge in their ears, so they've had otorrhea. So it's like a pus developing. But in this instance, it's more superficial, just a bit of inflammation. And the skin is attached all the way around the back part of the ear canal. You can see that. So I'm going to go back in, just trying to peel as much as I can away. So it is quite a tedious part of the video. So, but do stay tuned, because you'll see in a moment that me removing the wax and dead skin from their right ear. I know a lot of viewers enjoy these skin peels. You can see that skin there, it's really macerated. And when it's like that, when it comes off the canal wall, you can see a bit of dampness, humidity underneath. And I'm wanting to remove this dead skin because I just want to make sure there's no underlying pathology. Sometimes you can have ulcerations in the ear, so a complete breakdown of the outer layer of skin. You can have openings and widenings and erosions. There potentially can be a canal cholesteatoma, which is very rare, but quite often in the past when I've detected a canal cholesteatoma, it's just come from me removing a dead layer of skin like this, and hidden underneath the dead skin. In fact, I have got a video that I'm going to upload in the next week or so of a patient who I think has got underlying canal cholesteatoma. So they're going to have to undergo a CT scan with their ENT specialist, who will be written to. But on first appearance, you wouldn't have suspected that they've got that pathology, because there was just a layer of skin, and it's only once we peeled it and what was revealed underneath that made me suspect that they have got a canal cholesteatoma. So a canal cholesteatoma is quite rare. You may have heard the phrase cholesteatoma before, and the cholesteatoma, again, it's quite rare, but it's more common or more likely to get a cholesteatoma than a canal cholesteatoma. A cholesteatoma is a buildup of dead skin cells, and it collects normally in the attic region of the eardrum. So the attic region is the top part of the eardrum, the pars lucida. That part of the eardrum is more susceptible to being retracted, to buckle inwards. So the eardrum is made up of 3 membranes. The outermost membrane is made up of the same skin that lines the ear canal, the epidermis. The innermost membrane is a mucosal membrane, and the middle membrane is made up of fibrous tissue. Now, in the top part of the eardrum, the pars lucida, the fibrous tissue is more diffuse. It's not aligned as structurally sound as it is in the pars tensa, so the main body of the eardrum. So that fibrous tissue is more, as I said, it's more diffuse, which makes the top part of the eardrum a bit thinner and less strong and resilient and more flaccid in comparison to the main part of the eardrum, the pars tensa. And therefore, if you've got negative middle ear pressure, so if the air pressure behind your ear canal in the middle ear is more negative in comparison to the air pressure in the ear canal, and that normally occurs if you have a sudden change in atmospheric pressure. So, for example, on a plane, if you're descending quickly, or if your eustachian tube, which is the pressure equalizing tube in your middle ear that connects to the back of the nose, which allows air in and out to equalize the air pressure in your middle ear to make it equivalent to the atmospheric air pressure. If that eustachian tube is blocked and it's not allowing air to enter or exit, and if you develop negative middle ear pressure, so you've got less air pressure in the middle ear, what happens is it creates a vacuum and your eardrum gets sucked in. And because the attic region is a lot thinner and the middle membrane, the fibrous tissue membrane, it's not as structurally as turgid as the pars tensa, that part of the eardrum is more susceptible to getting sucked in. And when that's sucked in, it creates a pocket. And in that pocket, dead skin that sheds from the eardrum, from the ear canal, it can fall into that pocket and get trapped. And then that dead skin can get infected, it can form into a plug, and then it can go inwards into the middle ear space itself, and then it can grow into the back part of the middle ear space where the mastoid bone is, the antral region, so the kind of the lobbyway to the mastoid bone. So the bone behind the ear canal is called the mastoid bone, and it's air-filled, and it's got a honeycomb structure. And the entrance to that bone, it's accessible via the eardrum. So imagine if the eardrum's like a flap, and you open it, and you go through the eardrum into the middle ear. And in terms of the left ear, it's to the rear, so to the back, and the same with the right. It's to the rear of the ear canal. There's a little entrance to the mastoid bone. We call that the antral region. So the cholesteatoma can grow into the mastoid bone. It can go upwards towards the brain, so it potentially can be life-threatening. It can cause a brain abscess, meningitis. It can also start to infect and disease the middle ear structure, so the middle ear bones and the facial nerve. So the facial nerve runs in the middle ear, adjacent to the oval window, which is a part of the cochlea, the organ of hearing. So that's your normal canal cholesteatoma. Sorry, your normal cholesteatoma, but sometimes you can develop, and it is more rare, a canal cholesteatoma. So in the same way, this dead skin, it collects as opposed to in the attic. And this patient, if you look carefully, they have got an attic retraction in both ears. Actually, the eardrums are sucked in, and the attic part, the top part of the eardrum, so the region above the hammer bone. So you'll see the hammer bone. At the top of the hammer bone, you've got the lateral process, or also known as a short process. It's like a little circular protrusion of the bone. Anything above that region you can classify more or less as the attic region, the pars flaccida. And you'll see in both sides the eardrum is sucked in. It's like a little pocket there. But a canal cholesteatoma is when you've got dead skin, and it, instead of collecting in the top part of the eardrum, the attic, it collects in some part of the ear canal. So if a patient has got a pothole, for example, an erosion, a widening, or a strange divot within the ear canal, skin can fall down there, or like a well. It's another way of describing it. Dead skin can fall into the well or the pothole that's in the ear canal. Now, what's caused that pothole? What's caused this widening in the ear canal? It could be a previous infection, it could be anatomical, so congenital, or it could be self-inflicted, it could be acquired, so patients could be poking in their ears, cotton swabs, and cause trauma to the ear canal. And so skin that would naturally shed away from the ear canal instead falls into an opening, a widening, an erosion of the ear canal. And similarly, that skin can get infected, and it can form into a plug, and it can start spreading. It can infect the bony part of the ear canal, the cartilage. That can spread all around the ear, around the jaw, and it similarly can go up towards the brain, the skull base. So a canal cholesteatoma can potentially be life-threatening. And I've diagnosed a few in the last year or so, but they were hidden away under dead layers of skin. And the moral of the story, the reason why sometimes I'm peeling some of the skin away, is just to make sure there's nothing menacing, nothing sinister underneath, because I have been surprised in the past. So they're right here. I used a combination of microsuction and a Jobson horn. You can see the ear canal's not as angry, it's not as red as their left ear. And they have got a lot of dead skin. We're not going to get every little last speck. And some of the skin, it's just died, it's just shedding. It's still in that process, if truth be told. So anything that comes away, we'll remove. If not, we're going to just leave that. So this is the outermost layer of the skin, the stratum corneum. So the epidermis layer, so that's the epidermis is the outer physical barrier of skin. It protects the dermis and the insulating fat and connective tissue, the innermost layer of the three of skin. It's made up of 5 layers, and this is the uppermost layer, the corneum, stratum corneum. So that's just some dead skin shedding in that region. So the yellowish skin here, it's more near the entrance, it's crusted, it's oxidized, so this has been dead for longer. And unfortunately for this patient, their skin just doesn't shed, it either wraps itself around the skin plug, or it just remains on the ear canal wall. So there is a few skin plates there, we're not going to remove all that. There was a bit of clarinetting as well, so sometimes when you suction dead skin, I might have a couple of videos that I've taken in the past where you can actually hear it for yourselves. That the skin violently flaps and it emits a very loud, high-frequency squeal, and it's quite noisy, not only for the patient but for myself. So that's the contents of both ears. You can see it's very dry earwax. There's a lot of dead skin content in there. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. Do take care and speak to you soon. Bye.